What really happened to Michael Jackson, and why did so many people end up whispering that he was murdered? To understand that, you have to start far from the spotlight, with one man, Dr. Conrad Murray. At this point, Murray is 56 years old, living in Las Vegas, a city that thrives on excess. According to people who knew him, he seemed to enjoy that excess a lot. He was married, but it was said that he loved going to gentlemen's clubs, tossing cash under the neon lights, making a show of raining money so everyone could see how much he was spending. He reportedly did it to catch the eye of the dancers and cocktail servers moving through the smoke and music. By several accounts, this strategy worked. He was believed to have a very active love life, constantly involved with new women. And those relationships led to children, many children. Reports say Dr. Murray had 7 children with 6 different women. On paper, that might look like the life of a man who has everything, but children come with responsibility, and responsibility comes with bills. Murray, however, did not seem eager to keep up with those bills. So he was sued, again and again, by multiple mothers of his children for unpaid child support. The court judgments started stacking up. By the time it was all added together, records showed he owed more than $700,000 in back child support alone. On top of that, he was reportedly behind on the mortgage for his Las Vegas mansion and was carrying credit card debt. The image of the generous high roller in the club didn't match the reality of a man buried in financial pressure. In simple terms, he needed money, badly. Then, in 2009, he received a call that could change everything. A call that seemed like the perfect escape hatch from his financial disaster. On the other end of the line was the most famous client he would ever have, Michael Jackson, the king of pop. To the world, in 2009, Michael Jackson was still Michael Jackson. Even after all the scandals, all the rumors, all the late-night jokes, he remained one of the most recognizable human beings on the planet. This was the man who created the best-selling album in history. The artist whose tours in the 1,980 seconds and 1,990 seconds shattered records and left stadiums screaming. His silhouette alone could electrify a crowd. But by 2009, he was 50 years old. The boy from Gary, Indiana, who became the global superstar, was now a middle-aged man who had lived a lifetime under the harshest spotlight imaginable. Behind the scenes, Michael was also dealing with massive financial problems of his own. Years of legal battles, heavy spending, drug dependency issues, and mismanagement of his money had taken their toll. According to reports, Michael was now an estimated $500 million in debt. To dig himself out of that hole, he needed to do the one thing he had avoided for years: go back on tour. This would be his first major tour in over a decade. The plan was ambitious, a massive run of concerts in London. He announced the tour and called it, "This Is It." For fans, it sounded like a declaration. One last chance to see Michael Jackson live, one last grand spectacle. Tickets went on sale, and the response was immediate and overwhelming. Around 50 shows sold out in just a few hours. The demand was so intense, it was almost like the glory days all over again. But the truth was, Michael Jackson in 2009 was not the same man who moonwalked across the stage in the 1,980 seconds. He was older, his body was worn down, and his health wasn't what it had been. Still, he was determined. This tour was supposed to secure his legacy, restore his finances, and prove to the world, and maybe to himself, that he was still capable of greatness. The pressure to succeed was enormous, and it sat on top of existing health issues and a long, complicated relationship with medications. All of that pressure, along with the physical strain of rehearsals, left Michael with brutal insomnia. Night after night, he reportedly lay awake, unable to quiet his mind or his body. To get through the rehearsals and the tour, he decided he needed medical help. He didn't want just any doctor. He wanted someone he felt he could control. Someone close, someone who would be there around the clock. So he called a familiar name, Dr. Conrad Murray. Michael told him he needed help sleeping. According to accounts of their conversations, he mentioned a particular drug he liked, something he had been given before surgery. The drug was propofol, a powerful anesthetic used to knock patients out completely for major operations. Michael wasn't asking for a stronger sleeping pill. He was asking for a surgical anesthetic to help him sleep in his own bedroom. Dr. Murray was a board-certified physician. That meant he knew exactly what propofol was, what it did, and what the risks were. As a doctor, his professional duty should have been crystal clear. Refuse the request, explain that using propofol as a sleep aid outside a hospital would be dangerous, and find a safer, legitimate treatment plan. He should have drawn a hard line, but that is not what happened. Instead, according to court records and later reporting, Murray agreed to give Michael the drug he wanted. In return, he was offered $150,000 a month to serve as Michael Jackson's personal physician. For a man drowning in debt, that kind of money would feel like a lifeline. Murray left Las Vegas and flew to Los Angeles, moving into Michael's world as his private doctor. He was suddenly part of the inner circle, walking through back entrances, standing in rehearsal spaces, appearing in the background of a life lived on camera. It was said that he enjoyed the status. In front of women, he would drop Michael's name casually. "I'm Michael Jackson's doctor." He would promise introductions, hint at access, and according to some accounts, even use Michael's name to attract younger women for dates. The whole situation blurred the line between professional duty and personal ego. Meanwhile, a routine developed in Michael's rented mansion. During the day, Michael would go to rehearsals, pushing his body through complex choreography, trying to reclaim the precision that had made him a legend. At night, back in his bedroom, Dr. Murray would set up an IV line beside the bed. He would administer propofol to Michael, not in an operating room, but in a private home, surrounded not by surgical teams and emergency equipment, but by household furniture and personal belongings. To be clear, propofol is not a sleep medication. It is not designed to gently ease someone into natural rest. It induces a drug-controlled unconsciousness, a kind of artificial coma, so a surgeon can cut into your body without you feeling or remembering it. It is powerful, fast-acting, and extremely dangerous if used incorrectly. Because propofol can slow and even stop a person's breathing, standard practice is to use it only in a highly controlled environment, like a hospital or surgical center. When it's given, a patient's heart rate and oxygen levels are supposed to be continuously monitored by specialized equipment. A trained team needs to be present to intervene immediately if something goes wrong. That's the rule. That's the system. That's how it's meant to be done. But according to investigations and testimony, Murray ignored those safeguards. Night after night, he reportedly gave Michael this extreme drug in a bedroom setting without the basic medical protections that any hospital would consider non-negotiable. He didn't hook Michael up to a proper heart monitor to track his breathing. He did not have adequate resuscitation equipment ready at the bedside. He was alone with one of the most famous men in the world, playing anesthesiologist in a private mansion. About 2 months of this went by. Then, one night, everything fell apart. On that night, before reaching for the propofol, Murray gave Michael a mix of strong anti-anxiety medications to help him sleep. Even after this chemical cocktail, Michael reportedly still could not drift off. Morning crept closer. Rehearsals loomed. The pressure didn't stop just because he couldn't sleep. So the following morning, Murray gave him propofol, a hospital-grade anesthetic delivered in a bedroom. And then, according to reports, Murray did the one thing no doctor should ever do in that moment. He walked away. He left Michael Jackson alone, unconscious, attached to an IV drip of a drug that can shut down breathing without warning. During that window of time, those minutes when no one was watching, Michael stopped breathing. His chest stopped rising. His body lay still on the bed. The room was quiet. No alarm sounded because there were no monitors, and there was no one at his side to see it happen. Murray, instead of watching his patient, was reportedly on his computer, checking email. Among the messages was one from the insurance broker for the upcoming tour, asking if Michael was truly healthy enough to perform. There had been rumors and concerns about Michael's health, and the insurance company wanted reassurance. Murray wrote back, insisting that Michael was in excellent health. On the screen, in writing, he painted a picture of a strong, capable performer. Then, according to phone records, he started making calls. At least one of them was to a younger woman he was apparently romantically interested in. While those conversations were happening, Michael lay in his bedroom, not breathing. At some point, Murray finally returned to check on him and realized that Michael wasn't breathing at all. Panic set in. He tried to perform CPR, but multiple experts later stated that he did not do it correctly. Despite being a doctor, he failed to use standard, effective resuscitation techniques. In that critical moment, with seconds ticking by, the obvious move would have been to dial 911 immediately, get paramedics on the way. But that's not what he did. Instead, he called Michael's personal security team. Soon, Michael's bodyguard ran into the room and found the scene. Michael on the bed, unresponsive, Murray in a frenzy. Rather than focusing solely on saving Michael's life, Murray reportedly instructed the bodyguard to help him hide the evidence to gather up the vials of propofol and the IV bag. Only after cleaning up the room did he allow the bodyguard to place the 911 call. By then, somewhere between 25 and, according to some reports, as many as 83 minutes had passed since Murray first noticed Michael wasn't breathing. That's up to an hour and 23 minutes where his patient may have had no effective breathing, no proper emergency response. When the paramedics finally arrived, they rushed Michael Jackson to the hospital. Machines were connected, compressions continued, and attempts were made to pull him back from the edge. But for Michael, it was already too late. He was gone. The most famous entertainer in the world had just died behind the closed doors of a rented Los Angeles mansion on the eve of the tour that was supposed to save him. If you know someone whose life or personality mirrors this story, share their name in the comments. We'd like to explore their journey as well. When the news of Michael Jackson's death finally left that bedroom and hit the outside world, it moved faster than anyone could control. Within minutes, the story was everywhere. Television networks cut into regular programming. Anchors shifted their tone to something grave, and the words, "Michael Jackson is dead," began to echo across continents. Millions of people rushed to their screens. It was reported that Google, Wikipedia, Twitter, and other major sites were suddenly flooded with traffic from stunned fans searching for answers. So many people typed Michael Jackson at nearly the same time that, according to some accounts, engineers at Google initially believed they might be under some kind of cyber attack. The digital world buckled under the weight of a single name. On streets from Los Angeles to London, from Tokyo to Rio, fans gathered spontaneously. Some cried, some played his music from their cars, phones, and windows, turning neighborhoods into impromptu memorials. Others just stood still, staring at the headlines, trying to make sense of the idea that someone who had always seemed larger than life could be gone in an instant. This wasn't just a celebrity passing away. For many people, it felt like the end of an era. Michael Jackson had hundreds of millions of fans worldwide. They had grown up with him as the child star with the dazzling smile, the young man redefining what pop music could be, the icon whose dance moves were studied, copied, and worshipped. And now, without warning, the same fans were being told that all of that history had come to a sudden, unnatural stop in a rented Los Angeles mansion. But what came next was even more shocking. As medical examiners dug into the details of his death, they found a lethal level of propofol in his system, along with other drugs. After reviewing the evidence, Michael Jackson's death was officially ruled a homicide, not an accident, not natural causes, but a killing caused by the actions of another person. That ruling turned a tragic loss into the center of a criminal investigation. Once that announcement was made, the focus shifted squarely onto Dr. Conrad Murray. The personal doctor who was supposed to protect Michael's health was now at the heart of a case that treated the King of Pop's bedroom like a crime scene. Police moved in. Murray was arrested. His mug shot a single frozen image of a man whose decisions had led to the death of the world's most famous entertainer was released to the public and replayed on screens everywhere. He now had to stand trial and answer for what he had done. The reckless use of propofol, the lack of proper monitoring, the failure to call 911 immediately, the attempts to clear the room of evidence. In court, every detail of those final hours was picked apart. Text messages, emails, call logs, expert testimony, they were all laid out like pages in a grim dossier. Throughout the process, Murray did not accept responsibility in the way many expected. According to reports from the courtroom, he did not admit fault, did not express clear accountability for the chain of decisions that had ended with Michael Jackson's death. For fans watching, it felt like a second betrayal. In the end, the jury returned its verdict. Conrad Murray was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The judge sentenced him to 4 years in prison, a punishment that, for many members of the public, felt small compared to the scale of the loss. Michael Jackson, the man whose music had circled the globe, was gone. Murray would serve a limited amount of time and then walk free. That imbalance stirred anger, confusion, and a sense that something about the system still wasn't right. But the story didn't stop with the verdict. In 2016, after his release, Conrad Murray re-entered public conversation in a way that inflamed old wounds. He published a book about Michael Jackson titled This Is It, the same name as the tour that was supposed to mark Michael's triumphant return. The choice of title alone felt, to many, like a calculated move to exploit the legacy of the man whose death had put him behind bars. In the book, it was said that Murray shifted blame away from himself, pointing fingers at others around Michael, the people, the system, the machinery of fame, rather than fully owning his own role. According to reports, he portrayed himself as someone caught in forces bigger than he could control, rather than the man who made the direct medical decisions in that bedroom. For a lot of observers, it came across as cold, opportunistic, and deeply disrespectful. And so, even years after Michael Jackson's heart stopped, Conrad Murray's name remained tied to Michael's in a way that felt disturbing. The doctor who had been hired to help Michael sleep was believed by many to have helped end his life and then continued to attach himself